No worries. Charlie, the stress of trade period is obviously over. You got your prize there right at the end. How do you look back at it now?
Oh, look, Mark, it's trade week can be unpredictable. We had a few things going on with Jordan early in the trade period, and we're busy up until the end working through the Peter Ladhams trade with Port Adelaide. But we're really happy with the outcome. We're set out to try and bring Peter in. We think he's a genuine long-term number one ruck option for us, and a key part of our list build. And so to bring someone in like Peter to complement Tom was a terrific result.
You obviously commented on the valuation with Jordan Dawson. How did you feel about the trade for Peter Ladhams? Are you pretty comfortable with what you had to give up for that?
Look, we try and take an approach where we put forward what we think are fair and reasonable offers. Peter was contracted, so that makes it difficult. It was up to Port Adelaide to satisfy Port Adelaide. In the end, we felt we put forward some pretty fair and reasonable offers, which they were entitled to consider right up until the death, and that's what they did. But yeah, we're very happy to get it done in the end.
You just mentioned that you're hoping or expecting that Peter can develop into a first choice ruckman over the next few years. Is the idea that he'll mostly play forward ruck like he has at Port Adelaide, at least in the next year or two at the Swans?
Yeah, we think he can complement and work really closely with Tom over the next couple of years, and then progress into the genuine number one ruck for us. They're difficult to find. If you look back, the really top line ruckmen have been taken very early in the draft, or you typically have to pay a really high price at the trade table. We've been able to bring in 2 ruckmen over the last 2 trade periods, which we think we've done reasonably well with. So we're really pleased with what we've done over the last 2 years.
And the forward ruck role is a position where you seem to already have quite a few options. One of those is Sam Reid, who's uncontracted. So what does Peter's arrival mean for Sam, especially when you've got Logan McDonald, Hayden McLean, Joel Amartey also waiting for opportunities?
Yeah, look, there will be a bit of competition for spots there. We're really pleased with the development of Joel Amartey. We thought he showed a lot this year, and he'll continue to get better. Hayden McLean's another forward who can go into the ruck. We think that those two can probably focus a bit more on their forward craft and developing their skills as key forwards. About Sam, look, we've been pretty open with Sam, and he knows where he sits. Where we said that we'd defer a decision in relation to his future until post-trade period. We'll sit down over the next couple of days and work through that. We think Sam can still play a role. We've just got to weigh up our list balance now and where things sit. We've got we think we'll have 3 or 4 selections in the draft, but we just got to sit down and work through that over the next few days and weeks.
Was there any other interest in Sam over the past couple of weeks?
No, his name hasn't come up.
Is there a chance Sam goes back, Charlie? We talked just then about how many options you do have up forward and young developing options. He has played a bit of back in the past. Is that potentially where his future lies? Yeah,
that's certainly something we'd consider. Sam's been a terrific player, and one thing he does bring is versatility. He can play at both ends of the ground. We've seen him go back late in games and play that seventh defender role. So we're pretty confident that he could play a role like that. He's another one that can go into the middle as well and be a really mobile ruckman and can go forward. Can play tall on the wing. So there's a lot going for Sam. We've just got to work through our list balance internally, and we'll do that over the next few days and weeks.
Charlie, you were pretty strong in your initial statement about Jordan, how you valued him and getting that trade over the line. I mean, on reflection, how do you assess that move?
Oh, look, at the end of the day, we agreed to the deal, but we did rate Jordan really highly. He's a 24-year-old, very, very versatile, runs well, kicks it kicks it really well. And if you look at all the benchmarking player ratings across the competition, he's rated up there with the elite players in the competition. So, we rated him slightly higher than, where we landed the deal with Adelaide, but taking into account, the dynamics in the negotiation, we elected to accept it because we thought that was the right thing to do. And in the best interest of the club, we take an additional first round selection next year, which we can add to our own first round selection, and gives us a lot of flexibility in our list build moving forward.
You mentioned the dynamics there, Charlie. Are those dynamics the pre-season draft and essentially Adelaide's ability to perhaps walk Jordan through to that pre-season draft and take him for nothing? Did that kind of tie your hands a little bit when it came to negotiating a deal?
Yeah, look, it was never discussed with Adelaide. It didn't come up, but it is a reality. If we couldn't conclude a deal, the alternative was to lose him for nothing, either to Adelaide or another club with a selection in the pre-season draft. So that was something that we couldn't discount, and was part of our decision making when we accepted the deal.
Charlie, was there any consideration given to make a stand and let him walk to the draft if you couldn't get what you thought was a fair deal?
Yeah, there was, Andrew. We discussed that internally. The situation with Jordan was he wasn't a free agent. We put 6 years of development into him. We're in a unique position along with the other northern clubs where over 70% of our players don't originate from New South Wales, and the go home factor is relevant, and we don't like to see really good players walk out the door, and we think that you need to look at each individual circumstances on its merits. Clearly, I don't think you can bring a blanket rule to these things, but we were conscious of that. But in the end, we thought the right thing to do by the club to set us up moving forward was to accept the deal.
And would there be an element of sort of trying to make a statement to the players, or sort of a stand on principle that in walking to the pre-season draft, that if you're not a free agent, you don't quite get to choose, get sort of more power back to the club?
Yeah, look, it's a balance. There are different motivations for players wanting trades, and you've got to strike the right balance and at the right time put your club hat on and assess and look at it from all those different options. But if you're asking, was the club mindful of making sure that it sends a message, and did it consider putting a stake in the ground? Yeah, we considered it, and it's something we're mindful of. But ultimately, we thought the right thing to do was accept Melbourne's future first.
And just, I suppose, taking the issue forward, now that Jordan has left, you had a pretty significant deal in front of him. What do you plan to do with that now? I mean, does that leave you with a bit of room to play around in future years? I mean, you'll probably need a replacement for the number 23 pretty soon.
Yeah, look, as I said off the top, we've got some developing young forwards that we're really confident in. So we're hoping a lot of our improvement can come from within. We've been to the draft heavily over the last 4 or 5 years. I think we've got 6 top 10 draft picks on our list at the moment. Over 50% of our list is under 25. We think we're building into a good position where we can start challenging consistently. And we'd like to see a lot of improvement from within, guys like Logan McDonald. You mentioned, that's where our improvement will come from. We'll obviously look to see if we can add to our list along the way through future trade periods and the draft. But we're really focusing on the group we've got here at the moment, and John Longmire and the coaching team have done a terrific job so far. Still plenty of work to do, but we're pretty confident in the direction we're heading.
Charlie, how long is the deal for Peter Ladhams?
Peter, we've agreed a 4-year deal with Peter.
And just looking ahead to the draft, we know you've got 16, 31, 39, so 3 picks inside the top 40. What sort of player are you looking for?
Look, Kinnear Beatson and Simon Dalrymple, our national recruiting manager, will lead the charge on that front. We'll get into that work in more detail over the next month or so. We always just want to improve, and there's that constant discussion about, do you take the best player or needs? We think we'd like to continue to add to our midfield and bring in some young midfield talent. But we're not wed on any particular player at the moment. That'll play itself out over the next few weeks as we lead into the national draft in late November.
Charlie, you lost Jordan and George, who obviously played in defence and also through the middle. You have some younger talent that look like they have similar attributes. Are there any players in particular that you and John and the other coaches are expecting will step up and step into Jordan and George's roles?
Yeah, Mark, we've got really high hopes for Nick Blakey. We saw him take some really big steps forward this year, playing across halfback, playing that intercept defender role that Jordan has played really successfully, and he provides some speed and rebound off halfback as well. So we think he can help there. Dylan Stevens is a young developing midfielder, really hard running midfielder who's played wing and a little bit of midfield. We think he can play a really strong role for us through the midfield, where Jordan spent some time on the wing this year. So Justin McInerney's another one we want to see more of, and guys like Chad Warner and Braden Campbell, who didn't play in our last final against the Giants. Those guys we think have really strong futures ahead at the Swans.
And was that a bit of a selling point to Dylan, that with Jordan likely to leave at that stage, that there would be a position opening up for him to claim if he was able to do so?
No, I don't think so. That certainly didn't come up in our discussions. Dylan knows what he needs to work on to improve his game, and I think he's really excited about the group that he's a part of, and the potential that could be there to be part of a successful team. And so I think he's really keen to get into it, get a big preseason under his belt, and win a consistent spot in the senior side.
Charlie, knowing you've got those 2 first-round picks next year now, I know I'm throwing forward a long way, but we knew that Campbell, Goulden were great prospects a long way out. Do you have any academy guys that look like they might be at the pointy end of the draft next year?
That's difficult, Mark. Our academy program's been pretty severely compromised over the last 18 months with the impacts of COVID and community sport, and the pathways being interrupted. So it's probably a little bit too early to tell. We always look closely at our academy talent, and we'll zero in on that over the next 12 months, but it's probably a little bit too early to tell.
Just a couple more, guys.
Oh, Charlie, just back on Sam Reid, is the rookie list a potential home, or where he might end up sort of on your list for next year, or is that sort of an option you're looking at?
Look, Andrew, we'll look at all those things. The rookie list, primary list, eligibility to play, it doesn't really make a difference. So we have flexibility there. We've got list spots available. So whether it's rookie or primary list, that won't really come into it.
And just on George Hewitt, Charlie obviously departed quite early through the free agency. He's been the best 22 most weeks, it seemed. What was it that stopped you guys matching the offer? Was it the length of deal that Carlton offered that just kept you guys from matching it, or what was it that saw you guys step away from that one?
Oh, look, we rate George really highly. He's been a terrific player for the club, and just the type of guy that you love to have on your list. And certainly we have a contract for George, and happily have him on our list. But weighing up some of our midfield depth and our talent coming through, combined with the offer that came from Carlton, which we thought was significant long-term deal. putting all those things in the mix, we just felt the right decision was not to match and turn to our younger developing midfield.